A cleaner arrives with her triplets in an old car in front of a mansion on Christmas Eve. But when the millionaire opens the door, he's shocked by what he discovers. The engine's rumble echoed through the cold Christmas Eve. Claire, 42, gripped the steering wheel of her old Chevrolet with determination. In the back seat, her 6-year-old triplets, Emma, Liam, and Sophie, sang off-key. "Mom, are we there yet?" Emma asked for the 1,000th time. Claire forced a smile. "Almost there, sweetheart." That was a lie. They'd been lost for half an hour, and the car was showing signs of giving up. The check engine light flashed on the dashboard like a red warning of imminent disaster. "The car's making a weird noise," Liam observed. Before Claire could reply, the engine coughed and died. Total silence. "Darn it," Claire muttered, momentarily forgetting her rule about not cursing in front of the children. Sophie began to whimper. "Are we lost?" "No, my love. It's just a Christmas adventure," Claire improvised, sounding more confident than she felt. Stepping out of the car, the biting cold hit her like a slap. That's when she saw it. An imposing mansion, lit up like a beacon in the darkness. "Kids, stay here. Mom's going to ask for help," Claire commanded, her voice leaving no room for argument. With quick steps, she crossed the ornate gate. Each step on the marble steps reminded her how out of place she was in this world of wealth. Claire hesitated before ringing the doorbell. The melodic chime that echoed seemed to announce her intrusion into this sanctuary of luxury. The door opened abruptly. The man who appeared was Claire's opposite in every way. Where she showed the hard lines forged by years of work, he radiated refinement and ease. His silk robe practically screamed money. But it was his eyes that captured her. Intensely blue, shining with surprise and disturbance. "May I help you?" His voice was deep, almost hypnotic. Claire opened her mouth, but the words failed her. How could she explain without sounding like an intruder? A shout cut through the air. "Mom?" The man's face changed instantly. The polite mask gave way to genuine concern. "You have children?" he asked, looking past her. Claire nodded. "Triplets. Our car broke down and—" "Come in," he interrupted, opening the door wider. "I'm William. It seems you've had quite a complicated night." As Claire turned to call the children, she noticed how William's eyes softened as the little ones approached, hesitant. "Hi," Sophie said timidly, hiding behind Claire's legs. William knelt, getting down to their eye level. "Hello, little ones. How about some hot chocolate while we help your mum?" The triplets' eyes lit up at the mention of chocolate, all hesitation forgotten. "Yes, please," Liam exclaimed, being the first to step inside. Claire watched, astonished, as her children followed William inside as if he were the Pied Piper. The mansion was even more impressive inside. Crystal chandeliers, Persian rugs, artworks that likely cost more than everything Claire owned combined. "Wow, you're rich," Emma blurted out, making Claire blush. William laughed, a surprisingly warm sound. "Let's just say I'm lucky. Come, the kitchen's this way." In the modern kitchen, William prepared hot chocolate with a skill that surprised Claire. Within minutes, the children were perched at the counter, sipping the warm drink and sporting chocolate mustaches. "So," William began, turning to Claire, "how can I help?" Claire quickly explained about the broken car and how they were on their way home after a long day of cleaning work. "A cleaner?" William asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," Claire answered, lifting her chin defiantly. "Is that a problem?" William smiled, a smile that reached his eyes. "Not at all. I admire hard-working people." At that moment, William's phone rang. He answered, his face turning into a mask of worry. "Excuse me, I need to take this call," he said, leaving the kitchen. Claire could hear fragments of the conversation. Something about a company, problems, urgent decisions. When William returned, he looked years older, the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Is everything all right?" Claire asked, surprised by her own concern. William forced a smile. "Nothing that can't wait until tomorrow. Now, about your car." Before he could continue, a deafening noise came from outside. Rushing to the window, they saw that the snowstorm, previously a distant threat, had arrived with full force. "I don't think anyone's going anywhere tonight," William murmured. Claire felt panic settling in her chest. Staying in a stranger's mansion, with her children, as if reading her thoughts, William hurried to reassure her. "I have enough guest rooms. You can stay until the storm passes and we figure out the car situation." Claire hesitated. Her whole life she fought to be independent, not to rely on anyone. But looking at her children, exhausted and now warmed and fed, she knew she had no choice. "Thank you," she said finally. "I promise we'll make it up to you somehow." William shook his head. "No need. Consider it a Christmas gift." As William showed them the rooms, Claire couldn't help noticing how the mansion, despite all its grandeur, seemed empty, lonely. Putting the kids to bed, Claire allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. "What are we doing here?" she murmured to herself. "Mum," Sophie called sleepily. "I like Mr. William. He seems sad like you sometimes." Claire kissed her daughter's forehead, surprised by the child's perception. "Sleep, darling. Tomorrow is a new day." Lying in the luxurious bed, Claire reflected on the night's events. A broken car, a mysterious mansion, a lonely millionaire. It felt like the beginning of a modern fairy tale, but real life wasn't a fairy tale, and Claire knew that better than anyone. Tomorrow they'd fix the car and return to their reality. Little did she know that fate had other plans. The storm outside was only the beginning of an emotional whirlwind that would change their lives forever. Dawn arrived, bringing with it an almost supernatural silence. The storm had passed, leaving behind a pristine white world. Claire woke up disoriented, the silk sheets a strange reminder of where she was. "Mom, look at the snow!" Liam's excited voice brought her back to reality. Claire got up, finding her 3 children already pressed against the window, eyes wide with wonder. "Can we play outside?" Emma asked, practically bouncing with excitement. "Let's see what Mr. William says," Claire replied, trying to buy some time. The situation still felt surreal. They went downstairs, guided by the smell of freshly brewed coffee. William was there, looking tired, as if he hadn't slept. "Good morning," he said, forcing a smile. "Coffee," Claire nodded gratefully. "The kids are excited about the snow." William looked out the window, a shadow passing over his eyes. "The backyard is safe for them to play in, but first, breakfast." While the children devoured pancakes, Claire observed William. There was tension in him, a sadness beyond mere fatigue. "Did you sleep?" she asked, surprised at the concern in her voice. William shook his head. "Work, always work. It must be hard, running such a big company." He looked at her, surprised. "How do you know about the company?" Claire blushed. "I overheard some of your conversation last night. Sorry, I didn't mean to pry." William waved it off. "It's fine. It's complicated. Tough decisions. Sometimes an outside perspective helps," Claire offered. "I know I'm just a cleaner, but—" "Just a cleaner," William interrupted gently. "You're a single mother raising triplets and running your own cleaning business. That requires more skill and courage than many CEOs I know." The compliment caught Claire by surprise. Before she could respond, the children intervened. "Can we go play now?" Sophie begged. William smiled, the first genuine smile Claire had seen. "Sure. I'll show you the way." While the children bundled up, Claire noticed William taking something from a drawer. They were children's gloves. "They were my stepdaughters," he explained, noticing Claire's look. She loved the snow. There was so much pain in that simple sentence that Claire felt her heart clench. Outside, the children's laughter echoed, breaking the morning silence. Claire watched, torn between the joy of seeing them happy and her anxiety about their situation. "They look happy," William commented, joining her. Claire nodded. "Thank you for this." "For everything." "It's good to see life in this house again," he murmured, almost to himself. Back inside it, Claire decided to be helpful. "Can I clean something, as a way to thank you?" William looked uncomfortable. "You don't have to. You're not my employee." "I know, but I'd feel better doing something in return for your hospitality." After a moment's hesitation, William nodded. "If you insist, you can organize the library. It's the only part of the house I use regularly, besides the office." In the library, Claire felt even more out of place. floor-to-ceiling shelves, books older than the mansion itself. She began to work, trying not to think too much about the value of what she was handling. Then she saw the photo, framed in silver, on the desk. A young woman, smiling radiantly at the camera. Claire froze. It was like looking into a mirror, but not exactly. The woman in the photo was younger, more polished, but the resemblance was undeniable. "Find something interesting," William's voice startled her. He stood in the doorway, watching her with an indecipherable expression. "I'm sorry, Who is she?" Claire asked, unable to contain her curiosity. William approached, gently taking the frame. His fingers lightly brushed the image. "Elizabeth, my late wife." The shock must have shown on Claire's face because William frowned. "Are you all right?" Claire shook her head, trying to regain composure. "It's just, she looks so much like me." William looked from the photo to Claire, his eyes widening in recognition. "My God, you're right. How did I not notice before?" The silence that followed was heavy, loaded with unspoken questions. "How did she—" Claire began, unsure if she had the right to ask. "Cancer," William replied, his voice low. 3 years ago." "I'm so sorry," Claire said, feeling the inadequacy of the words. William nodded, lost in thought. "She always wanted children, you know. But we could never have them." The children's joyful screams outside broke the moment. William blinked, as if waking from a trance. "I should check on them," he said, hastily leaving the room. Claire stayed there, looking at the photo. 1,000 questions whirled in her mind. Who was this woman? Why did they look so similar? Could it be just a coincidence? Glancing out the window, she saw William with her children. He was showing Liam how to build a snowman, laughing at something Emma said. For a moment, he seemed years younger, free of the weight he carried. Claire felt a pang in her chest. Gratitude? Yes, but also something else. Something she wasn't ready to name. She returned to her work, trying to push away the confusing thoughts. But Elizabeth's photo seemed to watch her, a silent reminder that there was more to this story than it seemed. Outside, the snow continued to fall gently, covering the world in white. A new beginning, perhaps, or the unearthing of secrets long buried. Claire didn't know what the future held, but she sensed her life was about to change forever. And it all began with a broken car and a photograph in a strange mansion on Christmas Eve. The sound of childish laughter echoed through the halls of the mansion, breaking years of silence. Emma, Liam, and Sophie ran from room to room, their eyes bright with excitement at each new discovery. "Mom, look at this," Liam called, pointing to a huge globe in the office. Claire smiled, watching her children explore what, to them, seemed like an enchanted castle. Her smile, however, hid a growing worry. How long could they stay? How would she repay William for his kindness? Her thoughts were interrupted by a crash and a startled scream. Claire ran to the living room, her heart pounding. Sophie stood frozen, horrified, before a broken vase. Shards of fine porcelain were scattered on the marble floor. "I'm sorry, Mom, I didn't mean to," Sophie sobbed. Before Claire could react, William appeared. His gaze took in the broken vase, then Sophie's tears, and surprisingly, he smiled. "It's okay, little one," he said, crouching next to Sophie. "You know what? I never really liked that vase anyway." Sophie looked at him, still teary-eyed, but now with a hesitant smile. "Really?" William nodded solemnly. "Absolutely. In fact, you did me a favor." Claire watched, stunned, as William comforted Sophie and began cleaning up the shards. His kindness toward the children caught her off guard. Later, with the children finally tired and dozing on the sofa, Claire allowed herself a moment of reflection. Sitting in the kitchen with a cup of tea, she remembered the early days with the triplets. Flashback, the relentless crying of 3 babies filled the tiny apartment. Claire, exhausted and with dark circles under her eyes, tried to soothe Emma while Liam and Sophie wailed in their cribs. "Shh, it's okay," she murmured, more to herself than to the baby in her arms. Bills piled up on the kitchen table. Late rent, diapers to buy, and she still had no idea when she could return to work. "You'll be fine," she promised the babies. tears silently rolling down her cheeks. "Mommy will figure it out." Back in the present, Claire blinked away tears. Those first months had been hell, but she survived. They survived. Penny for your thoughts." William's voice brought her back to reality. Claire smiled faintly. "Just remembering." William sat across from her, his own cup of tea in hand. "It must have been tough at first." "You have no idea," Claire replied, then hesitated. "Or maybe you do. I'm sorry about your loss." William nodded, his gaze distant. "Elizabeth, she would have been a wonderful mother." The silence that followed was heavy, loaded with unspoken emotions. Claire found herself wanting to comfort this man she barely knew, but she didn't know how. "Your kids are amazing," William said finally. "You've done a wonderful job with them." Claire blushed at the compliment. "Thank you. They are my life." William watched the triplets sleeping on the sofa, a melancholy smile on his face. "They've brought so much life back into this house in just one day. I can't remember the last time I heard laughter here." Claire followed his gaze, feeling a surge of pride and love for her children. But there was also something else, a twinge of guilt for bringing this joy into William's life, knowing it was only temporary. "William," she began hesitantly, "about the vase." He raised his hand, cutting her off. "Don't even think about it. Honestly, it was refreshing to see someone treat this house like a home, not a museum." His words surprised her. Claire had always seen wealth as something distant and unattainable. But here was William, a clearly wealthy man, longing for the mess and chaos she considered her normal life. "May I ask something personal?" Claire found herself saying before she could stop. William raised an eyebrow but nodded. "The photo of Elizabeth. Why do we look so alike?" The question hung in the air between them. William remained silent for a long moment, his eyes fixed on his teacup. "Honestly, I don't know," he finally replied. "Elizabeth was adopted as a baby. She always wanted to find her biological family, but—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. "Cancer took her before she could." Claire felt a chill down her spine. Adopted? The resemblance? Could it be? I never knew my biological parents either," Claire admitted. "I grew up in foster homes." William's eyes widened at the revelation. The air between them seemed charged, full of unspoken possibilities. Before either could speak, the sound of small footsteps interrupted. Liam appeared in the kitchen door, rubbing sleepy eyes. "Mom, I'm hungry," he mumbled. The tension broke. Claire stood, grateful for the distraction. "Let's fix you something to eat, honey." As she and William moved around the kitchen, preparing sandwiches for the kids, Claire couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. There were so many questions, so many possibilities. Watching William interact with her children, teaching Emma to make the perfect sandwich and making Sophie laugh with a silly joke, Claire felt something shift inside her. This mansion, which initially seemed so cold and impersonal, was starting to feel like home. The thought scared her they would have to leave soon, return to their real life, far from this temporary fairy tale. But as she saw the genuine smile on William's face, the joy in his eyes as he played with the children, Claire couldn't help wondering, what if there was more to this story? What if this chance encounter was just the beginning of something bigger? With Elizabeth's photo still vivid in her mind and William's words echoing in her ears, Claire knew they were only scratching the surface of a much greater mystery. A mystery that, perhaps, could change their lives forever. Dawn had barely broken when Claire slipped silently out of the mansion, determined to take a look at the car. The biting cold made her shiver, but she pressed on, pulling the borrowed coat tighter around her. Reaching the old Chevrolet, Claire lifted the hood with a practiced motion. Her eyes examined the engine with familiarity. Years of necessity had turned her into an amateur mechanic. "Come on, old friend," she murmured to the car. "What's bothering you?" Her calloused hands moved confidently among the engine parts. She was so focused that she didn't notice William's approach until he spoke. "Impressive." His voice startled her. "I didn't know that besides cleaning, you were also a mechanic." Claire turned as offering a shy smile. "When you're a single mum, you learn a bit of everything." William stepped closer, looking curiously at the engine. "Any idea what the problem is?" "Seems like the alternator," Claire said, pointing to the part. but I'm not sure without the right tools. William nodded, genuinely interested. Can I help somehow? Claire hesitated. The offer was tempting, but her independence fought against accepting more help. Maybe you have some tools I could use, she finally asked. Sure, William replied promptly. In the garage. Come, I'll show you. As they walked to the garage, Claire couldn't help noticing how William seemed more relaxed outdoors, away from the mansion's oppressive grandeur. The garage was a dream for any amateur mechanic. Meticulously organized tools covered the walls, and in the center, covered by a tarp, was what Claire assumed to be a luxury car. Wow, she breathed, her eyes shining at the sight of so many tools. William smiled, clearly pleased by her reaction. Feel free to use whatever you need. I used to enjoy working on cars too, but, well, it's been a while. Claire grabbed a few tools and returned to her car, William following silently. As she worked, he watched, occasionally asking questions or offering suggestions. You really know your stuff, he commented after a while. Claire shrugged without looking up from the engine. Necessity is the mother of invention, as they say. And the children's father? William asked softly. He doesn't help. Claire froze for a moment, then continued working, her voice tense. There is no father. At least, not one that matters. William seemed to understand that he'd touched a sensitive subject and changed it. You know, I'm impressed by your determination. Many people would have given up and called a tow truck. I can't afford to give up, Claire replied simply. After a moment's hesitation, she added, Besides, this car, it's more than just transportation. It's part of the family, William finished, and a sympathetic smile on his face. Claire nodded, surprised that he understood. Encouraged by his empathy, she voiced the question that had plagued her since last night. William, about the photo in the library. Your wife. William's smile disappeared, replaced by a cautious expression. Elizabeth. Yes, Elizabeth, Claire continued, choosing her words carefully. You mentioned she was adopted. Did you ever find anything about her biological family? William was silent for a long moment, eyes fixed on the horizon. When he finally spoke, his voice held emotion. Elizabeth always wanted to know more about her roots. We hired detectives, did DNA tests, but the trails always led to dead ends. Claire felt her heart speed up. And you never found anything? William hesitated, as if debating how much to reveal. There were rumors about a sister, maybe, but nothing concrete. The sound of metal against metal echoed when Claire dropped the wrench she was holding. A sister? William looked at her intently, as if trying to solve a puzzle. Claire, do you think there could be a connection between you and Elizabeth? Claire swallowed hard, her mind spinning with possibilities. I don't know. It's quite a coincidence, isn't it? Our resemblance, both adopted. Sometimes coincidences are the universe trying to tell us something, William murmured, more to himself than to Claire. The silence that followed was heavy, loaded with unasked questions and unexplored possibilities. It was broken by the sound of small feet approaching quickly. Mum, Mr. William. Sophie's excited voice cut through the air. Breakfast is ready. Claire and William exchanged a silent understanding. This conversation was not over, but it would have to wait. We're coming, sweetheart, Claire replied, closing the hood. Turning to William, she whispered, Thank you for your help. And for your honesty. William nodded, his gaze still intense. Claire, if you'd like, we could investigate further. Together. The offer hung in the air between them, full of promises and risks. Claire knew that accepting could open a Pandora's box of emotions and revelations, but the possibility of discovering the truth about her origins, maybe having a connection with the woman in the photo. Let's think about it after breakfast, she finally replied, offering a small smile. As they walked back into the mansion side by side, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something big, something that could change their lives forever. The mystery of the photo, Elizabeth's origins, her own story, all seemed to be intertwining in a way she never could have imagined when her car broke down on Christmas Eve. And as she entered the kitchen, seeing her children smile and William preparing pancakes as if it were the most natural thing in the world, Claire wondered if maybe this was not just the end of a journey, but the beginning of a much greater one. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen as Claire and William sat down after breakfast. The children played in the adjacent room, their occasional laughter breaking the comfortable silence between the adults. William seemed lost in thought, absently stirring his cup. Claire watched him, noticing the worry lines on his forehead. "Something's bothering you," she finally said, not as a question but as a statement. William looked at her, surprised by her perception. He hesitated a moment before speaking. "It's complicated," he began. "My company is facing an ethical dilemma." Claire leaned forward, interested. "What kind of dilemma?" William sighed deeply. "We discovered that one of our suppliers is using questionable labor practices. It's not exactly illegal, but it's on the edge of ethics." "And you're thinking of cutting ties with them?" Claire asked. "That's the problem," William replied, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "If we cut them off, hundreds of people lose their jobs. But if we continue, we're essentially condoning practices that go against everything I believe in." Claire remained silent for a moment, taking in the information. When she spoke, her voice was calm and thoughtful. "You know, as a cleaner, I've worked in places that treated their employees as disposable," she began. "I've also seen the impact that losing a job can have on a family." William looked at her, intrigued by her perspective. "Maybe," Claire continued, "the issue isn't whether to cut or keep, but how you can use your influence to improve the situation." "How so?" William asked, leaning forward, genuinely interested. "What if instead of simply cutting ties, you use your position to demand changes?" Claire suggested. "Set ethical standards as a condition to continue the partnership. That way, you don't just keep jobs, you also improve working conditions." William stared at her, a mix of surprise and admiration on his face. "That's brilliant, actually. I don't know why I didn't think of it before." Claire shrugged, a small smile on her lips. "Sometimes it takes an outside perspective, someone who's been on the other side of the equation." "You surprise me at every turn, Claire," William said softly. "Thank you." The moment was interrupted by an excited shout from the other room. "Mom, Mr. William! Look what we found!" Claire and William quickly got up, following the children's voices. They found the triplets huddled around an old box, apparently retrieved from some forgotten corner of the mansion. "What do you have there?" Claire asked, kneeling beside them. Emma held up an old photo album, her eyes shining with excitement. "Old pictures? Look, Mr. William, is that you?" William approached, his face paling slightly at the sight of the album. "Where did you find this?" "It fell behind the sofa when we were playing hide and seek," Liam explained. Claire watched William carefully as he took the album from Emma's hands. His hands trembled slightly as he opened the pages. "Are these pictures of you and Mrs. Elizabeth?" Claire asked gently. William nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "And our family, friends, a lifetime of memories." The children, sensing the emotional atmosphere, fell quiet, observing curiously as William turned the pages. Claire was about to suggest leaving William alone with his memories when the doorbell rang, shrill and insistent. "I'll get it," she said, rising quickly. Opening the door, Claire found a man in a suit, his expression serious and professional. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice sharp. "I'm Dr. Rodriguez, Mr. Williams' attorney. I need to speak to him urgently." Claire hesitated for a moment before replying, "Of course, please come in. I'll call him." Returning to the living room, Claire found William still absorbed in the photo album, the children quietly at his side. "William," she called softly, "your lawyer is here. He says it's urgent." William raised his head, seeming to snap out of a trance. "Dr. Rodriguez, now!" He stood, carefully placing the album back in its box. "Kids, why don't you go play outside for a bit?" The triplets, sensing the tension, obeyed without protest. Claire followed them to the back door, making sure they were fine before returning. In the living room, William and Dr. Rodriguez were deep in heated conversation, their voices low but intense. "Can't wait, Mr. William," Claire heard the lawyer say. "The documents must be signed today." William seemed agitated. "But I haven't made a final decision. I need more time to consider all the implications. Dr. Rodriguez sighed, clearly frustrated. I understand your hesitation, but the board is pressuring us. If we don't act now, we might lose control of the situation. Claire shifted uncomfortably, feeling like she was intruding on something private. She was about to leave when William called her name. Claire, he said, his voice filled with an emotion she couldn't decipher. Would you mind staying? Your perspective might be valuable. Surprised, Claire nodded, approaching hesitantly. Dr. Rodriguez eyed her with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. William, Claire said gently. What's going on? William exchanged a look with his lawyer before replying. Remember the ethical dilemma I mentioned? Things got complicated. The board wants an immediate decision, and these documents, he gestured to the folder Dr. Rodriguez held, represent a choice I'm not sure I'm ready to make. Claire looked between the two men, feeling the weight of the decision that hovered over them. What's the choice? Cut all ties with the supplier immediately, potentially causing a local economic crisis, or maintain the status quo and risk an ethical scandal that could destroy the company's reputation, Dr. Rodriguez explained clinically. Claire thought for a moment, recalling her earlier conversation with William, and the third option? Using the company's influence to push for changes. Dr. Rodriguez looked surprised. Third option? William smiled slightly, despite the tension. An idea Claire came up with, one I believe deserves serious consideration. The lawyer frowned. That would complicate things legally. We'd need to draft new contracts, establish monitoring mechanisms, but it would be the right thing to do, William interrupted firmly. Claire watched their interaction, feeling the gravity of the decision. It was strange to be involved in something so beyond her everyday experience, yet her unique perspective seemed valuable. If I may suggest, she said carefully, why not postpone the decision by one day? Use that time to fully explore this third option. If it's not feasible, then at least you'll know you considered all alternatives. William and Dr. Rodriguez exchanged a glance, a silent communication passing between them. Finally, William nodded. I agree with Claire, Doctor. Rodriguez, please draft a preliminary version of this third option. Tomorrow we'll make a final decision. The lawyer didn't seem entirely pleased, but agreed. As you wish, Mr. William. I'll return tomorrow with the new documents. As Dr. Rodriguez left, William turned to Claire, gratitude evident in his eyes. Thank you, he said simply. Claire smiled, feeling a surge of pride that she had contributed in some way. I'm glad I could help. Looking out the window, where the triplets played happily in the garden, Claire couldn't help thinking how drastically her life had changed in such a short time. From a simple cleaner with a broken car to an impromptu advisor on corporate ethics. And as she observed William, lost in thought by her side, Claire sensed this was only the tip of the iceberg. There was much more to come, more secrets to uncover, more challenges to face. But for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to face whatever fate had in store. With William by her side, and her children as her driving force, Claire knew she could handle any obstacle. The plot was thickening, but maybe that was exactly what they all needed to finally find the answers they sought. Night fell over the mansion, bringing with it a heavy silence. The triplets, exhausted after a day of play, slept soundly in one of the guest rooms. Claire, unable to sleep, wandered through the halls, her thoughts a whirlwind of unanswered questions. Her steps led her back to the library, where it all began with that enigmatic photo. Moonlight streamed through the tall windows, casting ghostly shadows over the shelves. Claire approached the desk where she'd first seen Elizabeth's photo. She hesitated, feeling like an intruder, but curiosity won. Carefully, she opened the top drawer. What she found made her heart race. More photos, dozens of them, all of Elizabeth. Elizabeth smiling on a beach, on her graduation day, on her wedding day with William, and documents, piles of them. Can't sleep, William's voice startled her. He stood at the library door, a cup of tea in his hand, looking tired but kind. I'm sorry, Claire stammered, closing the drawer. I shouldn't be snooping. William shook his head, stepping closer. It's all right. Actually, maybe it's time I shared some things with you. He sat in a nearby armchair, inviting Clare to do the same. For a moment, they sat in silence, the ticking of the old clock echoing in the room. Elizabeth was adopted, William began quietly. She found out at 18 when she needed her documents for college. It was a shock. Clare listened attentively, feeling the pain in William's words. From then on, she became obsessed with finding her biological family. It was like part of her was missing, you know, William continued, eyes fixed on a distant point. We hired detectives, did DNA tests, searched old records, but we always hit dead ends. It must have been frustrating, Clare commented softly. William nodded. It was, but Elizabeth never gave up. Even when she got sick, she kept searching. He stood up abruptly, going to the desk. Opening the same drawer Clare had searched, he took out a thick folder. These are all the documents we gathered over the years, he explained, handing the folder to Clare. Adoption records, DNA test results, private detective reports. Clare opened the folder with trembling hands. The first thing she saw was a copy of Elizabeth's birth certificate. Her eyes widened at the date and place of birth. That's the same town where I was born, she whispered, shocked. William looked at her intently. I know. When you mentioned you were also adopted, I started to wonder if there could be a connection. Clare continued flipping through the documents, her heart pounding faster with each new clue. There were so many coincidences, so many points where her story and Elizabeth's converged. William, she finally said, her voice shaking slightly. Do you think Elizabeth and I could be sisters? William finished gently. Honestly, Clare, the more I think about it, the more likely it seems. The silence that followed was heavy, loaded with emotions yet to be expressed. Clare felt as if the ground had been pulled from under her feet. She had wondered about her origins all her life, and now suddenly the answers seemed within reach. There's one more thing, William said hesitantly. Dr. Rodriguez, my lawyer, he didn't just come here to talk about the company dilemma. Clare looked at him, curious. He also brought news about the investigation into Elizabeth's origins, William continued. Apparently, they've found a promising lead. A former employee of the orphanage where Elizabeth was adopted is willing to talk. What? Clare exclaimed, jumping up. That's incredible. When can we speak to him? William smiled sadly. It's not that simple. The man is very ill in a nursing home. He only agreed to talk if he could see Elizabeth in person. Clare's heart sank. But Elizabeth? Yes, William nodded. She's not here to do that. The silence fell over them again, heavier this time. Clare sat back down slowly, her mind racing with all these new details. What if, she began hesitantly, what if I go in her place? William looked surprised. Would you do that? Clare nodded slowly. If there's a chance to find out the truth, not just about Elizabeth, but about myself too, I have to try. William approached, taking Clare's hands in his. Clare, you have no idea how much this means to me, to Elizabeth. Clare felt tears welling in her eyes. I wish I'd had the chance to know her. To have a sister. William pulled her into a hug, surprising them both. Maybe it's not too late to know her in a way, through memories, through stories. When they pulled apart, both had tears in their eyes. Clare took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. So what's the next step? She asked, determination in her voice. William smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his tired eyes. Tomorrow I'll call Dr. Rodriguez. We'll arrange a visit to the nursing home as soon as possible. Clare nodded, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. She was about to embark on a journey to discover her origins, something she had dreamed of since childhood. William, she said softly, thank you for sharing this with me, for giving me this chance. He squeezed her hand gently. No, Clare. Thank you. You've brought hope back to this house. And who knows, maybe we're about to fulfill Elizabeth's last wish. Leaving the library, Clare couldn't help but glance again at Elizabeth's photo on the desk. The smiling face, and so much like her own, seemed to look back with a silent promise. I'll find out the truth, Clare promised in a whisper. For both of us. In bed later, Claire stayed awake for hours, her mind replaying everything she had discovered. The coincidences, the similarities, Elizabeth's relentless search for her family. Everything seemed to fit together like pieces of a complex puzzle. Tomorrow would be the start of a new journey, a journey to uncover not only Elizabeth's past, but her own. And as sleep finally claimed her, Claire felt, for the first time in a long while, that she was on the right path to finding the answers she had always sought. Fate had brought her broken-down car to this mansion on Christmas Eve for a reason. Now, with William by her side and Elizabeth's memory guiding the way, she was ready to face whatever truth the future might reveal, no matter how painful. The wind's howl was deafening, rattling the mansion's windows with relentless fury. The approaching snowstorm had arrived with an intensity that caught everyone off guard. Claire watched anxiously as the world outside vanished beneath a white blanket. "Looks like we're stuck here for now," William commented, joining her by the window. His face was tense, torn between worry over the storm and the thoughts about his company's decision. Claire nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety. On one hand, the storm gave them more time to explore the possible connection between her and Elizabeth. On the other, it kept her away from her normal life and responsibilities. "Are the kids okay?" William asked, breaking the silence. "Yes, they're playing upstairs." "They seem to think this is a grand adventure," Claire replied with a small smile. William smiled back, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Claire, I need to make a decision about the company today. I can't postpone it any longer." Claire turned to him, noticing the worry lines on his face. "What are you thinking of doing?" William sighed heavily. "I'm leaning towards your suggestion, using our influence to push for changes instead of simply cutting ties. But it's risky. If it doesn't work, we could lose everything." "Sometimes doing the right thing is risky," Claire said softly. "But in the end, you'll be able to look yourself in the mirror knowing you tried." William looked at her with a mixture of gratitude and admiration. "How did you get so wise, Claire?" She shrugged, a sad smile on her lips. "Life has a way of teaching us hard lessons." At that moment, the sound of hurried footsteps broke the tension. The triplets burst into the room, excited. "Mom, Mr. William, look what we found," Liam exclaimed, holding an old photo album. Claire and William exchanged surprised looks before approaching the children. Emma opened the album, revealing old photos and yellowed documents. "Where did you find this?" William asked, his voice trembling slightly. "In the closet upstairs," Sophie answered innocently. "It was hidden behind some boxes." Claire leaned in to look at the photos, her heart racing as she recognized Elizabeth in many of them. But there were other photos too, older ones, of people she didn't recognize. "William, who are these people?" she asked, pointing to a particular photo of two young women. William took the album, his eyes widening in recognition. That's Elizabeth's adoptive mother. And the other woman, I'm not sure, but Elizabeth always thought she might be her biological mother." Claire felt her heart stop for a moment. The woman in the photo, supposedly Elizabeth's biological mother, bore a striking resemblance to herself. "William," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the roaring storm. "This woman, she looks like me." William looked from the photo to Claire and back again. "My God," he murmured. "How did we not see this before?" The children, sensing the tension, grew quiet, watching the adults curiously. "Mom," Emma asked hesitantly, "do you know these people?" Claire knelt beside her children, trying to maintain composure. "No, sweetheart. But they might be part of our family we never knew." "We have more family?" Liam asked, his eyes shining with excitement. "Maybe," Claire answered, exchanging a significant look with William. "We're trying to find out." William sat heavily on the sofa, the album in his lap. "Claire, this changes everything. If that woman is really Elizabeth's biological mother, and yours—" "It could be just a coincidence," Claire interrupted, but her voice lacked conviction. "How many coincidences do we need before we accept it might be true?" William asked softly. Claire closed her eyes, feeling the weight of years of unanswered questions. When she opened them, there was determination in her gaze. "We need to know more," she said firmly, "about that woman, about Elizabeth's adoption, about everything." William nodded, picking up his phone. I'll call Dr. Rodriguez right now. Storm or not, we need to act. While William spoke on the phone, Claire found herself surrounded by the triplets, their little faces full of questions. "Mum, are we getting an aunt?" Sophie asked innocently. Claire felt tears forming in her eyes. "I don't know, my love, but we're trying to find out." "What about a grandpa and a grandma?" Liam added, hopeful. "Maybe," Claire replied, pulling all three of them into a tight hug. "But remember, you three are my family, no matter what happens." William finished the call, his face a mixture of emotions. "Dr. Rodriguez is on his way. He says he has important information that can't wait." "But the storm," Claire began, looking at the window where snow continued to fall mercilessly. "He insisted," William answered. "He said it's crucial we talk today." The following hours passed in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. The children, sensing the tension, stayed unusually quiet, playing in a corner of the living room while Claire and William examined each photo and document, searching for more clues. When the doorbell finally rang, cutting through the howling storm, everyone jumped. William went to answer it, returning moments later with Dr. Rodriguez, covered in snow and holding a thick folder. "Ladies and gentlemen," the attorney began, his tone grave, "I have news that will change everything." Claire felt her heart race. She looked at William, at her children, and back to Dr. Rodriguez. In that moment, she knew her life was about to change forever. The storm outside seemed to echo the emotional storm inside the mansion. Long-buried secrets were about to come to light, and nothing would ever be the same after this night. Claire took a deep breath, bracing herself for what was to come. Whatever it was, she would face it, for herself, for her children, and for the sister she never knew but who had always been part of her life. The night that changed everything had only just begun. The storm still raged outside, but inside the mansion, a tense silence had settled. Dr. Rodriguez had just left, leaving Claire and William stunned by the revelations he brought. The children, sensing the heavy atmosphere, had withdrawn to their room to play. Claire sat on the sofa in the living room, her gaze lost in the crackling fireplace. William joined her, offering a cup of hot tea. "Thank you," she murmured, accepting the drink with trembling hands. "How are you feeling?" William asked gently, sitting beside her. Claire let out a shaky sigh. "Honestly, I don't know. It's a lot to process." William nodded understandingly. "I know. Finding out that you and Elizabeth were truly biological sisters, that's a lot." "Sisters," Claire repeated, testing the word. "My whole life, I wondered if I had family somewhere. And now you know you did," William completed softly. Tears welled up in Claire's eyes. "But I never got the chance to meet her, to really have a sister." William placed a comforting hand on Claire's shoulder. Maybe you can know her through my memories, through the stories I can tell." Claire looked at him, grateful. "I would like that." They fell into a comfortable silence, broken only by the crackling of the fire. "William," Claire began hesitantly, "can I ask you something personal?" He nodded, encouraging her to continue. "How was it, losing Elizabeth and never having the chance to have children?" William closed his eyes for a moment, pain evident on his face. When he opened them, they were misty. It is a pain that never fully goes away," he replied, voice rough. "Elizabeth was my best friend, my partner in everything. Losing her was like losing part of myself." Claire listened attentively, her heart aching for him. "As for children," he continued, "that was Elizabeth's dream. We tried for years, went through treatments, but it never happened. When she got sick, that dream died with her." "I'm sorry," Claire whispered, placing her hand over his. He gave a sad smile. "Seeing you with your triplets, it's a bittersweet reminder of what could have been." Claire felt a lump in her throat. "They're my life," she said softly. "But it wasn't always easy." William looked at her curiously, silently encouraging her to continue. Claire took a deep breath. "Their father, he's not in the picture. Never was." "He abandoned you?" William asked, a note of anger in his voice. Claire shook her head. "He never even knew about them. It was A one-night encounter. By the time I realized I was pregnant, there was no way to contact him. William looked shocked. You faced it all alone. I had no choice, Claire shrugged. It was scary at first, a triplet pregnancy, no family, not much money, but every challenge made me stronger. William regarded her with admiration and respect. You're incredible, Claire. Truly incredible. Before Claire could respond, a sharp cry came from the children's room. Both of them got up immediately, running to see what happened. They found Sophie sitting up in bed, crying, while Emma and Liam watched worriedly. What's wrong, sweetheart? Claire asked, rushing to her daughter's side. My tummy hurts, Sophie sobbed. And I'm cold. Claire pressed her hand to Sophie's forehead. She was warm. She's got a fever, Claire said to William, worry in her voice. William nodded, already taking action. I'll get the thermometer and some medicine. We have a well-stocked first aid kit in the bathroom. In the following minutes, Claire and William worked in sync, caring for Sophie. William took her temperature while Claire prepared a cold compress. Together, they managed to give her some fever medicine. You'll be all right, princess, William murmured, surprising himself with the gentle nickname. Claire looked at him, touched by his kindness. Seeing him care for Sophie so tenderly made something melt inside her. The next few hours were a blur of watchfulness and reassurance. Claire and William took turns checking on Sophie, comforting Emma and Liam, and keeping each other calm. During one of these exchanges, in the middle of the night, Claire found William in the hallway, looking exhausted but determined. How is she? He asked immediately. The fever's going down, Claire replied, relief evident in her voice. Thank you, William, for everything. He gave her a gentle smile. You don't have to thank me. I care about you all of you. There was a loaded silence between them, filled with things not said. Then, without thinking, Claire stepped forward and hugged William. He tensed for a second, surprised, before relaxing into the embrace, wrapping his arms around her. They stayed like that for a long moment, finding comfort in each other. When they pulled apart, there was a new intimacy between them, a silent understanding. We should try to get some sleep, Claire said softly. William nodded. Wake me if you need anything. Returning to the bedroom, Claire lay down beside Sophie, gently stroking her daughter's hair. Her thoughts drifted to William, to the revelations of the night, to the strange little family they were forming in this snowbound mansion. For the first time in a long while, Claire allowed herself to think about the future with hope. Whatever lay ahead, she was no longer alone. And that, she realized, made all the difference. The silence in the room was palpable, broken only by the ticking of the old clock and the occasional howl of the wind outside. Dr. Rodriguez had just revealed the information he brought, and now Claire and William sat stunned, trying to process what they had just heard. Repeat it, please, Claire asked in barely a whisper. I need to hear it again. Dr. Rodriguez cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. The records we found confirm, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you, Miss Clare, and the late Mrs. Elizabeth, Mr. William's wife, were biological sisters. You were separated as infants and placed for adoption into different families. William, who was holding Claire's hand, squeezed it gently. His eyes glistened with tears and a myriad of emotions. How is that possible? Claire asked, her mind spinning. All these years, and we never knew. The lawyer opened a folder, removing some documents. Apparently, your biological mother was very young when she had you both on twins. She couldn't care for both of you and, fearing you'd be separated in the system, she chose to give you to different families, hoping each would have a better chance. Claire felt tears start to fall. A sister. She had a sister all this time and never knew. And now it was too late. Elizabeth, when she murmured, looking at William. Did she know? William shook his head, his own voice thick with emotion. No, she always suspected she had a sister, but we never had concrete proof. She spent years searching, but the cancer took her before she could find out, Claire finished, feeling a sharp pain in her chest. Dr. Rodriguez continued, his voice gentle. We also found records of your biological mother. She passed away a few years ago, but she left letters for both of you. He handed 2 yellowed envelopes to Clare. She took them with trembling hands, reading the delicate handwriting. "To my Clare and to my Elizabeth. I don't know if I can read this now," Clare said, her voice breaking. William put an arm around her, pulling her close. "You don't have to, not right now. We can wait until you're ready." Clare nodded, grateful for his support. She looked at Dr. Rodriguez. "Is there anything else we need to know?" The attorney hesitated. "There are medical records. The condition that took Elizabeth, it's genetic." Clare felt her blood run cold. "You mean that you should get tested?" "Yes," Dr. Rodriguez confirmed softly. "It's just a precaution, but it's important," William completed, his face pale with the memory of what Elizabeth went through. Clare nodded, suddenly feeling exhausted. It was too much to process all at once. A sister she never knew, a mother she never met, and now the possibility of a hereditary condition. "Mom!" Sophie's voice broke the tense moment. The children, who had been asked to play elsewhere, now peeked through the door, worried. Clare forced a smile, opening her arms to them. The triplets ran into her embrace, surrounding her with warmth. "It's okay, my loves," she murmured, kissing their heads. "Mom just got some surprising news." "Good or bad news?" Liam asked, curious. Clare exchanged a look with William before answering. "A bit of both, honey. But the most important thing is that we have each other, right?" William joined the hug, wrapping Clare and the children in his arms. "Exactly. We're a family, no matter what." Dr. Rodriguez stood quietly, understanding it was time to give them privacy. "I'll be in touch if you have any questions," he said softly before leaving. When they were alone, Clare finally let the tears flow freely. She cried for the sister she never knew, for the mother she never met, and for all the lost possibilities. William held her tight, his own tears silent. "I'm so sorry, Clare," he whispered. "I'm sorry you and Elizabeth never got to meet." Clare looked up into William's eyes. "But we have met in a way, haven't we? Through you, through these memories, through this inexplicable connection we felt from the start." William nodded, a sad smile on his lips. "Elizabeth would have adored you. And these children, she always wanted to be an aunt." The kids, sensing the emotion in the air, embraced Clare and William more tightly. "So we really did have an aunt?" Emma asked softly. Clare nodded, stroking her daughter's hair. "Yes, sweetheart. A very special aunt who, unfortunately, is no longer with us. But she's still part of our family, right?" Liam asked. "Always," William replied, his voice firm despite the tears. "Elizabeth will always be part of this family." As the night wore on, the storm outside began to calm. Clare, William, and the children remained huddled together, finding comfort in one another. The truth had been revealed, bringing pain and joy, loss and gain. Clare knew the coming days would be hard. There was much to process, decisions to make, and a past to explore. But looking at William and her children, she felt a wave of strength and determination. They would face it together, as a family. And somehow, somewhere, Clare felt that Elizabeth was smiling upon them, finally at peace knowing her sister had found her way back to the family she loved so much. The days after the revelation were an emotional roller coaster for Clare. Sitting on the mansion's porch, watching the triplets play in the snow with William, she allowed herself to reflect on the turn her life had taken. Discovering that Elizabeth was her sister brought a complex mix of emotions. Joy at finally knowing she had a biological family, sorrow for losing a sister she never met, and a strange sense of guilt for growing closer to William. "A penny for your thoughts." William's voice drew her from her reverie. He sat beside her, offering a cup of hot chocolate. Clare accepted with a grateful smile. "Just processing it all." William nodded. "It's a lot to absorb. How are you dealing with it?" Clare asked, turning to him. William was silent for a moment, his gaze lost in the snowy landscape. "It's strange," he finally said. "On one hand, I feel Elizabeth is closer than ever. On the other, it's a painful reminder of your loss," Clare completed softly. "Exactly," William agreed. "But you know what? Seeing you with the children, hearing your stories, it's as if part of Elizabeth is still here." Clare's heart tightened. "I wish I had known her. She would have loved you, William smiled. And these kids. She would have been absolutely enchanted. As if to emphasize the point, a cheerful shout echoed from the garden. Liam had just hit William with a snowball and was now running for cover behind a tree. "Come join us," Emma called, waving enthusiastically at Claire. Claire laughed, setting her cup aside. "I guess we're being summoned." The afternoon passed in a blur of laughter, snowball fights, and snowman building. Claire marveled at how William transformed in the children's presence. The serious, burdened man gave way to someone playful and full of life. Later, while the children took a nap, Claire found William in his office, immersed in paperwork. "Working hard?" she asked, knocking softly on the open door. William looked up, a tired but satisfied smile on his face. "Implementing some changes in the company. That idea you gave me about using our influence to improve working conditions, we're putting it into practice." Claire felt a surge of pride. "That's wonderful, William. It will make a big difference in so many lives." "All thanks to you," he replied, his gaze intense. "You reminded me of what really matters." A moment of silence passed between them, charged with something unsaid. Claire felt her heart race. "William, she began, but was interrupted by Sophie, who burst into the office. "Uncle Will!" the girl exclaimed, throwing her arms around William. "Can you read us a story?" William laughed, lifting Sophie into his lap. "Sure I can, Princess. Why don't we call your siblings and make it a group story time?" Claire watched, moved, as William left the office with Sophie, calling Emma and Liam along the way. The ease with which he'd adapted to the role of a father figure surprised and warmed her heart. Later that night, with the children finally asleep, Claire and William met in the library. The fire crackled softly, casting dancing shadows on the walls. "The kids really adore you," Claire commented, accepting the glass of wine William offered. "And I adore them," William replied sincerely. "They've brought so much life and joy back into this house and to me." Claire felt a knot in her throat. "William, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for us." William set his glass aside, turning to face her completely. "Claire, you don't need to thank me. Having you and the children here, it's like I've finally found something I didn't know I was missing." Their gazes met, and Claire felt a wave of emotion wash over her. There was a connection between them, something beyond the link through Elizabeth, something new, scary, and wonderful. "I know it's complicated," William continued softly. "Our story, our connections, but I can't deny what I'm feeling." Claire took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "I feel it too, William, and it scares me. It's like we're betraying Elizabeth somehow." William took her hands in his. "I've thought a lot about that, and you know what I believe. Elizabeth would be happy that we found each other, that we're taking care of each other." Claire felt tears form in her eyes. "You think so?" "I'm sure of it," William replied firmly. "Elizabeth always wanted me to be happy. And you, Claire, you make me happy." In that moment, with the fire crackling gently and Elizabeth's memory hovering like a silent blessing, Claire and William leaned in. Their lips met in a soft kiss filled with promise and possibility. When they pulled apart, both had tears in their eyes but also smiles on their faces. "So what do we do now?" Claire asked, her voice barely a whisper. William smiled, gently caressing her cheek. "Now, we build something new. Together. One day at a time." Claire nodded, feeling a surge of hope and happiness. There, in William's arms, with her children sleeping safely upstairs, she finally felt she had found her place. The journey to rebuild bonds was just beginning, but with love, understanding, and Elizabeth's memory guiding the way, Claire knew they could face any challenge, together as a family. Dawn painted the sky with gentle shades of pink and orange when Claire woke up. She stretched, still feeling the warmth of William's embrace from the previous night. The past days had been an emotional roller coaster, but for the first time in a long while she felt truly at peace. Heading downstairs, Claire heard voices coming from the kitchen. She stopped at the door, watching the scene. William, still in pajamas, flipping pancakes while the triplets sat at the counter, chattering excitedly. "Uncle Will, you make the best pancakes in the world," Liam exclaimed, his mouth full. William laughed, playfully ruffling the boy's hair. Thanks, champ. Just don't tell your mom. She might get jealous. Too late, Claire said, entering the kitchen with a grin. My pancake secrets have officially been surpassed. The children squealed in delight at the sight of their mother, rushing to hug her. William looked at Claire with a tender expression, a joy in his eyes that she'd never seen before. After breakfast, with the children playing in the living room, William asked to speak to Claire in private. They went to the office, and Claire noticed the tension in William's shoulders. Is everything okay? She asked, concerned. William took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. Claire, I have something important to tell you, or rather, to propose. Claire felt her heart race. What is it, William? He took her hands in his eyes sincere and intense. These past days with you and the kids have been the happiest I've had in years. You've brought life back into this house, into me. Claire smiled softly, squeezing his hands in response. I've always dreamed of being a father, William continued, his voice thick with emotion. Elizabeth and I tried so hard. And now seeing you with the triplets, I realized I still want that, more than ever. Claire felt her breath catch, anticipating what he would say next. Claire, William said, his voice firm despite the emotion, I want you and the children to stay, permanently, not just as guests but as family. Claire stared, speechless. More than that, William went on, I'd like to legally adopt the triplets, and if you'll allow it, I want to be their father in every sense of the word. Tears began to stream down Claire's face. William, I don't know what to say. This is huge. William nodded, understanding. I know it's a big decision, and I understand if you need time to think. But I want you to know I'm serious. You four are the family I've always dreamed of. Claire felt a wave of emotions wash over her. Gratitude, love, fear, hope. William, I'm touched, truly. But are you sure? 3 kids at once. It's a lot of responsibility. William smiled, his eyes shining. I've never been so sure of anything in my life, Claire. I love those children as if they were my own. And you, well, I think you know how I feel about you. Claire blushed, remembering the kiss they shared the previous night. I love you too, William, she whispered. They hugged, both in tears. When they parted, Claire said, I think we should talk to the kids. They need to have a say in this too. William agreed, and together they called the triplets to the office. What's up, Mom? Sophie asked, her eyes wide and curious. Claire and William exchanged a look before William knelt in front of the children. Emma, Liam, Sophie, he began softly, you know that I love you very much, right? The children nodded, smiling brightly. Well, I've been talking to your mum, William continued, and we wondered how you'd feel if I became your dad, officially. There was a stunned silence before Emma shouted, You mean we can call you Daddy? William laughed, touched. Yes, sweetheart, if you want to. Liam frowned, thinking hard. But what about our other dad? Claire knelt beside William. Remember, honey, you never met your biological father. Uncle Will to William Ma wants to be a real dad to you, someone who's always here, who loves and cares for you. Sophie, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly threw herself into William's arms. I want you to be my daddy, she whispered. William held her tight, tears streaming down his face. I'd love to be your dad, princess. Emma and Liam quickly joined the embrace, and Claire watched, her heart overflowing with love and gratitude. When they finally separated, all with teary eyes and huge smiles, William looked at Claire. And you, my love, what do you say? Shall we make this mansion our home? Become a family? Claire looked at her children, at the man who had come into their lives so unexpectedly, and knew her answer. Yes, she said, her voice firm despite the tears. Yes to everything. The room exploded in cheers. The children jumped and danced. William spun Claire in his arms, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. Later that night, with the children finally asleep after hours of excited planning for their new rooms and their future, Claire and William sat on the porch, gazing at the stars. Are you sure you're ready for this? Claire asked softly. 3 6-year-olds, It's quite a change. William smiled, pulling her closer. I've never been more certain in my life. You four are the gift I never knew I needed. Claire rested her head on his shoulder. You know, for years I wondered why my life was so hard, why I had no family, why I struggled so much. Now I see it all led me to this moment, to you. William kissed the top of her head. Elizabeth always said there are no coincidences, only destined meetings. I think she was right. They fell silent for a moment, absorbing the magnitude of their decision. Tomorrow we'll start the legal preparations, William said, for the adoption, for transferring the kids to the local school. Claire nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. William, thank you for giving us a home, a family. He lifted her chin gently, looking into her eyes. No, my love. Thank you for giving me the family I always dreamed of. Their lips met in a gentle kiss, full of promises for the future. Under the starlit sky, with the children's soft breathing drifting through an open window, Claire knew she had finally found her place in the world. William's unexpected decision had changed everything, and though the road ahead might have challenges, Claire knew that together, as a family, they could overcome anything. The weeks following William's decision were a whirlwind of activity. The mansion, once quiet and almost gloomy, now buzzed with life and the occasional heated discussions about wall colors and furniture arrangements. One sunny morning, Claire and William were in the office, surrounded by piles of legal documents. Dr. Rodriguez, seated across from them, explained the intricacies of the adoption process. The fact that you two aren't married might complicate things slightly, the lawyer noted, adjusting his glasses. But given Mr. Williams' impeccable record and financial stability, I don't foresee major hurdles. Claire bit her lip, worried. What about the children's biological father, even though he was never present? Don't worry, Dr. Rodriguez assured. Since he never claimed paternity and isn't on the birth certificate, his rights are practically non-existent. William squeezed Claire's hand reassuringly. We'll get through this together, my love, one step at a time. While the adults dealt with bureaucracy, the triplets faced their own adaptation challenges. Emma, always the most outgoing, was thrilled by the idea of a new dad and a new home. Liam, on the other hand, seemed more reserved. One afternoon, Claire found Liam sitting alone in the garden, idly playing with a toy car. Everything okay, honey? She asked, sitting beside him. Liam shrugged, avoiding his mother's gaze. I guess so. Claire wrapped an arm around his shoulders. You know you can tell me anything, right? The boy remained silent for a moment before finally speaking. Mom, what if Uncle Will, Dad, gets tired of us? What if he doesn't want us anymore? Claire's heart tightened at the fear in her son's voice. Oh, Liam, she said softly. William loves you. He chose to be your dad. That's not something people do lightly. But what if he changes his mind, Liam insisted, finally looking up at her. At that moment, William appeared in the garden, carrying a toolbox. Seeing Claire and Liam, he approached with a smile. Hey, champ, William said, noticing Liam's serious expression. How about helping me fix your mom's car? It's about time we got that old friend running again. Liam's eyes lit up. Really? Of course, William replied, ruffling the boy's hair affectionately. Every dad needs a good helper, right? Claire watched, touched, as William and Liam headed to the car. The way William naturally took on the father role, always including the kids in his activities, warmed her heart. In the days that followed, William worked hard to master the nuances of fatherhood. There were moments of frustration, like when he tried to get Sophie to take cold medicine for a cold. Come on, princess, William pleaded, holding a spoonful of syrup. Just one quick sip. Sophie crossed her arms, pouting, I don't want it. It's gross. Claire, watching from the doorway, decided to intervene. Hey, Sophie, she called, grabbing a cup of juice. How about we take our medicine together? I'll take a sip of my special medicine, and you take yours. Whoever makes the funniest face wins, okay? Sophie's eyes sparkled at the challenge, and within seconds, the medicine was down, followed by giggles as everyone made exaggerated faces. William looked at Claire, impressed. How do you make it seem so easy? Claire smiled, shrugging. Years of practice. But you're doing great, love. It's just a matter of time and patience. As days passed, the family dynamic solidified. Mornings were filled with the organized chaos of getting 3 kids ready for school, with William handling lunchboxes while Claire braided Emma and Sophie's hair. Evenings were dedicated to family dinners, followed by reading sessions where each family member chose a book to read aloud. William discovered a special talent for doing different voices for each character, much to the children's delight. Not everything was perfect, of course. There were arguments over rules, jealousy when William gave extra attention to one child, and occasional meltdowns when reality felt overwhelming. One particularly tough night, after putting the kids to bed following a day full of small dramas, Claire and William met on the porch, exhausted but determined. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing, William confessed, running a hand through his hair. What if I'm not good enough for them? Claire moved closer, embracing him. You are more than enough, William. Being a father isn't about being perfect. It's about being there, loving unconditionally and always trying to improve. William kissed her gently. What would I do without you? You'd probably be lost trying to figure out how to use the washing machine, Claire teased, lightening the mood. They laughed together, their joy echoing into the night. The next day, William surprised everyone by showing up with a dog. I thought we could add another family member, he explained, as the children screamed with joy and crowded around the Labrador puppy. Claire raised an eyebrow. A dog? Are we sure we're ready for this? William smiled, pulling her close. I think it's a great way to teach responsibility to the kids. Besides, every family needs a pet, right? Watching the kids play excitedly with their new furry friend, Claire couldn't help but smile. This was her family now, imperfect, noisy, and absolutely wonderful. After weeks of work, the old Chevrolet finally roared back to life. The sound of the engine was like music to everyone's ears. We did it, Liam shouted, jumping up and down. William grinned, wiping grease from his hands. Yes, champ, we did. Now this old friend is ready for many new adventures. Claire looked at the car with a mix of nostalgia and hope. It had been her companion through so many hardships, and now it symbolized a new beginning. How about a drive, she suggested. All of us together. Within minutes, they were all in the car, the new puppy named Max, squeezed between the children in the back seat. As William drove through the town streets, Claire looked around at her smiling children, the incredible man by her side, and the bright future that stretched ahead. She knew challenges would still come. There would be tough days, arguments, moments of doubt, but looking at her family, Claire was certain that together they could overcome any obstacle. The old car, once a symbol of her solitary struggles, now carried not only Claire and her triplets, but an entire family, ready to embark on a new journey of love, growth, and endless possibilities. The scent of fresh pine and freshly baked cookies filled the mansion, now unrecognizable compared to a year ago. Where silence once reigned, now laughter and hurried footsteps echoed. Claire stood in the living room, smiling as the triplets, now 7 years old, decorated a giant Christmas tree. William balanced on a stepladder, tried to place the star on top under the kids' enthusiastic instructions. "A little more to the left, Dad," Emma shouted. "No, to the right," Liam contradicted. William laughed, climbing down the ladder. "How about we decide this democratically?" Claire approached, hugging Sophie. "What do you think, sweetheart? Where should the star go?" Sophie looked thoughtfully at the tree before answering. "I think it's perfect right in the middle." William smiled, exchanging a knowing look with Claire. Wise words from our little diplomat. In the middle it is. As William climbed back up to place the star, Claire reflected on how their lives had changed in the past year. William's adoption of the triplets had been finalized 6 months ago. In an emotional ceremony that left everyone in tears, the doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. "It must be Aunt Mary," Liam exclaimed, running to the door. Claire smiled, remembering how her professional life had also flourished. With William's support, she had started a premium cleaning service business, using her old car as a symbol. From old to new, Claire's cleaning services had quickly gained a great reputation in town. "Merry Christmas, everyone," Mary entered, laden with gifts and immediately surrounded by the children's hugs. The afternoon passed in a blur of Christmas preparations, everyone helping to prepare the holiday feast. Claire watched William teach Liam how to stuff the turkey, feeling her heart overflow with love. Later, with the children in bed, Claire and William found themselves on the porch watching the snow fall gently. "To think that a year ago we were stuck here because of a storm," William commented, pulling Claire closer. She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Who knew that storm would bring us so much?" William took Claire's hand, his fingers playing with the engagement ring. "Speaking of bringing good things, have you decided on a wedding date?" Claire looked at the ring, her heart fluttering. "How about New Year's Eve? A new year, a new beginning." William's eyes lit up. "Perfect, just like you." The days passed quickly, and soon New Year's Eve arrived. The mansion was decorated for the double celebration, the wedding and the New Year's festivities. Claire, in her simple yet elegant white dress, looked at herself in the mirror, barely recognizing the confident, happy woman she saw reflected. The triplets entered, all dressed for the occasion. Sophie held something in her hands, a small replica of Claire's old car, transformed into a delicate ornament. "For you to remember where we came from," Sophie explained, "and how far we've come." Claire hugged all three, moved. "It's perfect, my loves. Absolutely perfect." The ceremony was intimate and emotional. When William saw Claire walking toward him, flanked by the triplets, his eyes filled with tears of joy. Vows were exchanged, promises of love, respect, and partnership sealed with a passionate kiss as friends and family applauded. At midnight, with the countdown echoing through the mansion, Claire and William found each other again on the porch. "Happy New Year, Mrs. Thompson," William whispered, pulling Claire into a kiss. "Happy New Year, Mr. Thompson," she replied, smiling. The sound of a horn surprised them. In the garden, they saw Claire's old car, now restored and decorated, parked by the entrance. "Surprise!" the triplets shouted. "It's our wedding gift to you!" Claire and William descended the stairs, amazed. The old car, once a symbol of Claire's struggles, now represented their journey, their perseverance, and the love that united them. "How about a ride?" William suggested, opening the door for Claire. With the triplets in the back seat, laughing and singing, Claire and William set off on a nighttime drive. The streets were deserted, lit only by Christmas lights and fireworks exploding in the sky. Claire looked around, at the incredible man beside her, at the wonderful children in the back seat, and at the bright future stretching out before them. Her heart overflowed with gratitude and love. From a solitary cleaner with an old car to a fulfilled woman with a loving family and a thriving business, Claire knew her journey was far from over. But now, with William and the children by her side, she was ready for any adventure fate had in store. The old car rolled through the night, carrying not just a family, but dreams, hopes, and the promise of many happy years ahead. It was truly a new beginning. When they returned to the mansion, the party was still in full swing. Friends and family greeted them with hugs and congratulations. Claire noticed, her heart full, how the once cold and impersonal house now overflowed with warmth and love. William raised a glass, calling everyone's attention. "I'd like to make a toast," he announced, his voice filled with emotion. "To my beautiful wife, Claire, who brought light back into my life, to our wonderful children, who teach us something new every day, and to all of you, our chosen family, who made this day even more special." Claire raised her own glass, tears of happiness in her eyes. "And to love," she added, "which finds us in the most unexpected moments and transforms our lives in ways we never imagined possible." As everyone toasted and the celebration continued, Claire allowed herself a moment of reflection. A year ago, she was a lonely woman, struggling to raise 3 kids and keep a roof over their heads. Now she stood at the center of a loving family with a thriving business and a bright future. The old car, now proudly parked at the mansion's entrance, was no longer just transportation. It was a symbol of her journey, a reminder of where she came from and all she had achieved. When the party finally ended and the house grew quiet, Claire and William found each other again on the porch, watching the first rays of the New Year's sun. "Happy 2025, my love," William whispered, hugging her from behind. Claire snuggled into his arms, her heart full of peace and gratitude. "Happy new beginning, William." And so, with the sunrise of a new year, Claire knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The path that led her there had been hard and filled with obstacles, but every challenge, every tear shed, had been worth it for this moment of pure happiness. The future was bright, full of promises and possibilities. And with William and the triplets by her side, Claire was ready to embrace every new adventure. After all, this wasn't just the story of a happy ending, but the beginning of a new and exciting chapter in their lives.